At 10 with the latest BBC News, I'm Michelle Adamson. Novak Djokovic's dominance at Wimbledon has been ended after he was defeated by Spain's Carlos Alcaraz in the men's final. The world number 2 had been hoping to clinch a record-equalling number of major tennis trophies, but lost to his 20-year-old opponent in a thrilling 5-set match. The new champion said he could hardly believe his own victory.
Even if I would have lost, I could be really proud of myself, making history in this beautiful tournament, playing a final against a legend of our sport. For me, it's incredible. It's a dream come true. It's amazing for a boy, 20 years old. I didn't expect to reach, this kind of situations really fast.
3 people arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenage boy was fatally stabbed in Stourbridge in the West Midlands have been released under investigation. The 2 teenagers and a man in his 20s were questioned after emergency services were called to Coventry Street in the town centre last night. Police say there'd been a confrontation before a 16-year-old boy was stabbed. The French President Emmanuel Macron has paid tribute to the English-born actor and singer Jane Birkin, who's died aged 76. She rose to fame in the late 60s with the breathless song Je t'aime moi non plus, with the controversial French singer Serge Gainsbourg, with whom she had a decade-long relationship. Around 55 pilot whales have died after becoming stranded on a beach on Lewis. A small number survived and one was successfully refloated, but rescuers decided to euthanise the others on welfare grounds. Dan Jarvis from the British Divers Marine Life Rescue says it's a rare occurrence.
Over the last 10 to 15 years, they have become increasingly more frequent. This is certainly one of the biggest incidents that we've had in the last couple of decades. The last really big one was nearly 10 years ago now or so, where 70 plus pilot whales became stranded in the Durness area in the north of Scotland.
CCTV cameras that can see in the dark have been installed at a beach in Cornwall as part of a crackdown on antisocial behaviour. The cameras at Polzeath have an infrared capability, enabling them to monitor the beach at night. It follows concerns about the behaviour of young holidaymakers, which last year led to a dispersal order. And thousands of bikers have ridden to a care home in North Lincolnshire to make a resident's wish to see as many motorcycles as possible come true. 87-year-old Peter Kirby, a former biker himself, watched more than 4,000 bikes ride past his care home near Brigg, saying, "I just can't believe it." You're up to date. It's 3 minutes past 10.
How do we are here? You are there with Allan Beswick.
Thousands of bikes, just 10 of them going round and round and round. They soon fool the old codger. Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm Allan Beswick, and this is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In for a Sunday evening. And a little bit of Monday morning, because we go right through till 1, full 3 hours. And if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. The telephone number, and that is the only way to be involved in the programme, apart from listening. But if you want to take part in the programme, the number is 0800 218 2255. Was that slow enough? Thank you. I'm almost told it's too fast. 0800 218 2255. And the team tonight, well, we are blessed. Talat, Luke and Jason. And they're also here. Talat's in charge, he thinks. Luke is answering the phones. Jason is making the electronics happen. And I'm the one talking the rubbish. 0800 218 2255 if you want to be a part of it. So, Prince George, who was at the tennis today. Did you watch the tennis? It was marginally exciting, wasn't it? It was hell of a game. If you like tennis, then it was nip and tuck. Nip and tuck it were. Nip and tuck. I watched it, and yeah, it was good. It was good. Then when it's too partisan to say whether you think the best man won, but it's always nice to see a youngster topple the old guy, isn't it? I don't mean, he's not exactly a codger, but you know what I mean. It's always nice to see a youngster come along and change. Like Radicanu, that lasted in New York. Well, here's another. I mean, to be fair, the lad who did this is the world number one. But, it was exciting. So there was that. And Prince George was there with his dad and his mum and his sister. But the good news for Prince George is that he won't have to join the forces like his forebears have always had to. And who can blame him if he chooses not to? The money's crap for a start. The equipment is crap, what little there is of it. And there's very little respect for the military these days, unless, of course, it's November the 11th. Then everybody wears a poppy and says, aren't they wonderful, and then forgets all about them. Angela Rippon is said to be doing Strictly this year. She was the presenter in the days of black and white telly, when it really was about the dancing and not just fading celebrities trying to rescue their pointless careers. Wimbledon is going to build a statue of Andy Murray when he retires, which can't be too long now. I kind of hope he does. I hope he doesn't become that old codger in the corner in the pub, whittering on about his past glories. A bit like I'll be, next year. Except I won't be in the pub. According to the Mail today, that cretin that chucked pink confetti over George Osborne last week at his wedding in support of the Just Stop Oil campaign, then went on a holiday to Thailand. Now, I don't suppose she went by yacht or pedalled it on a bike. I suspect she went in a plane. And if it's true, she's a two-faced idiot. Excellent news arrives. Mrs. Beckham will not be joining the other women warblers for a Space Girls reunion. Whew, that was close. Apparently she wants to concentrate on making sure her fashion house continues to lose money. And airports are displaying notices telling flyers they should not fly whilst drunk. It could cost them thousands in fines and even jail time. One hopes the pilots read it and obey them. There have been occasions of tipsy crews. And thousands of British... This is quite a disturbing story, really. Thousands of British school children are drinking water at their schools which contains dangerous levels of lead. Now, guess what? Eton isn't one of those schools. So, of course, nothing will happen. Common decency and equality is like love. Back in music. Brings all the memories of St Albans Youth Club back. Happy days. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. You are more than welcome so to do. How do, Neil?
Oh, hello, Alan.
Hello.
Yes, I was before, yes, which is about the tennis and that, which I watched it as well, and it was wonderful, the actual matches, just the quality and all that. So, well, what about, so we think about the prize money in professional tournaments, between male and females. So if you stick to Wimbledon, yeah. So I mean, it's been going on the radio that the ladies, there's nothing wrong with that, wishing to have equal prize money. But I mean, I'm trying to debate now. Do you think it's a quality difference or the entertainment factor?
Well, the women at Wimbledon, I don't know about any other tournaments, but the women at Wimbledon get paid the same as the men.
Oh, right. I didn't know that, yeah, so...
They do. They haven't always. I think they have been... I think it's been for about 3 years they have. But anyway, as far as I'm aware, the women get the same as men. But then you have to think, well, hang on a minute, do they deserve the same as men? They only do a maximum of 3 sets or whatever they're called, whereas the blokes do 5.
Yep. So thinking, what's right or wrong? Is it morally right or before, the longer you take a job, then maybe you should get paid more. So,
well, perhaps you should get more if there's more work involved. Taking longer, no, that shouldn't get you more money because you just work slowly. You imagine a bus driver, getting paid by time. He'd say, well, all right, I'll go the long way around. I'll be ages. Yeah. Make a fortune.
Oh, I know that. But then it goes through again about the audience, whatever, watching it. On TV and that, so I mean that's a major thing as well, isn't it? I know not with the BBC, but I mean if it was commercial and that, they'd obviously pay more for the the programme that gives them more views.
Well, with Wimbledon, you have to buy the package. You can't say, we'll have that one, we don't want that one, we'll have that one. You have to buy the lot, which is probably why the BBC gets it. And also, of course, it's then sold on all around the world.
That is true, yeah. But I'm going to say today, I mean, I watched the women's yesterday, and it was superb. You know, that, and then today was one of the best tennis matches I've ever seen. And I'm not an expert in tennis, but I thought it was the length of the rallies, you know, and they won't give up. And you have the old chap like myself, he was only 36, you know, I'm a bit older than that, and then the young chap at 20, and they were both lovely, excellent. So I really enjoyed myself. So I just thought I'd mention that. So
that's what's needed. It is when all's said and done. It's the entertainment business. Good on you, Neil. I'll do Dave.
Hey, Alan.
Hi, what would you like to talk about, Dave?
Well, I've got a problem with my energy supplier.
Okay.
We were all allotted £400. It went straight into your bank account. I got the first 267s. Then after that, the energy supplier rung me up and said, I rung them up first, said, my money hasn't gone into my bank account. Why? Said, because we've stopped your direct debit. I said, why? You're not allowed to stop it. I stopped my direct debit. It says, well, we have done. We've stopped your direct debit. That's why you're not getting paid your £66. So they kept £466 back off me. And they haven't paid it back to the government. They've been paid it off the government, haven't they?
Yes. When you say they stopped your direct debit, did you ask them why?
Yeah, but I did. I said, you've no right to stop me direct debit. Why have you done it?
And what was their answer?
Because we put you on estimated bills.
Right.
Now, from day one, when I started with them, they came and fitted 2 new smart meters in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Gas and lecky.
Mm-hmm.
And the fellow who fitted them in, he said, I'll have to sort this electric one out with the company when I get back. It's not working correctly. And it hasn't worked for over 18 months.
Right.
So I've been having estimated bills for 18 months till the day they stopped my direct debit.
Mm-hmm.
So up to now, they owe me 4 amounts of £66.
Well,
They're charging me. Up to now, this year, I've paid nearly £3,500.
Well, have you at any point read your meter?
I can't. I'm a blind man.
All right. It would be
on my own as well.
It would be a good idea to get somebody to read your meter. Do the electricity people know that you're blind?
Yes, they do. They send me large print letters.
Well, large print letters are not much use to blind people, so they're only used to people.
I can magnify it on my television with the screen what I've got. I've got a magic.
Okay, so you're not totally blind.
No, I've got about 5%.
Okay, but if you get back in touch with them and say, because the problem is your meter goes unread, and so they eventually say, hang on a minute, you're paying a fixed amount every month, but we've got no idea whether that fixed amount covers your usage or not. They've not stolen the money from you. The money will still be allocated to your account. Do you get an account? Do they send you a bill every quarter?
They sent me another one for £1,280.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it. This year it's cost me over £3,000.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that, but the bills they've sent you, normally on that bill, they will deduct from the final charge the money that, if you like, the government's contribution to your bill, whether you pay by direct debit or any other process. Have they done that?
No, because I've had somebody come round me, mate, and I said, look, I've had this bill and I don't know how to pay it. So So he got on the phone and he gave me my bank details and they took it out of my bank. Twice.
My question wasn't about that. My question was because no, it's okay. But you said they've not given me my discount, which is how you get the money. When the government was paying the 67 quid a month for, I think it was 6 months, wasn't it? That wasn't money put into your bank account. It was money put into your account with the energy company. So you wouldn't see 67.
And they paid it into my account. Yeah. They paid amounts into my account.
A few moments ago, you told me that they haven't given you that money. Now you're telling me how they've given it to you. So
no,
I'm now
I
confused.
said that they paid me the first two £67, but when they cancelled my direct debit from then on, I didn't get the other four £66.
Let me ask you this question. I want a yes or no answer because I'm confused and I need to remove the confusion for me to carry on. Did the energy company make a deposit into your bank account of £67?
Yes, twice.
So there was a credit on your bank account of £67?
Yes, twice. 2 months payment.
That's okay, but that's the case. So they haven't been deducting it from your bill. What you need to do before we go any further is find out how much you owe them. And the way to do that is to get your meters read. Now, for that, I would suggest that you contact them and say, I am a blind person, I've had estimated bills for this long, and that's not acceptable, so I now need my meters reading. I can't read them because I'm blind. And if I don't get any satisfaction, I'll take the case to Ofgem and they will sort it out. Well, that's the first thing. Get on to them and say, I am a blind person. I cannot read my meters. I don't have anyone who can read my meters for me. And I'm paying you a phenomenal amount of money for energy which I may or may not have used. And I need my meters reading. Okay?
Right. Can I just tell you another thing?
By all means.
When they took over my account because the company went bust, right, they fitted my meters in, and I've had 3 engineers out to try and fit another smart meter in. And 3 times they said, turned around and said, no, we can't do it. We can't do it.
Right. Well, the smart meter, what the smart meter does is it means that they don't have to send anybody out to read your meter. But there is a duty.
It's not working.
And so, because it's not working, someone is going to have to read it manually. Now, you can't do that, you tell me, which is understandable given your poor vision, but somebody's going to have to do it, and that somebody, because they're taking your money off you, that somebody is the energy people. Now, if the energy people...
Send somebody round to read the meters, that we don't do that anymore. You've got smart meters. I said, yes, but they don't work.
Get on to the energy people and say, I need my meter read. The smart meter is inoperable. You're charging me thousands of pounds for electricity and gas, and I have no idea whether that is correct. Now, I need someone to read this meter. I can't do it. I am blind. If you don't do it, I will ask Ofgem to sort it. Okay?
All right, thanks, Alan.
Good luck. If that doesn't work, come back to me. Have a good night, Dave. Well, sorry, go on.
I got on to DWP, who were in charge of it, the government. And I said, look, I haven't paid me £66 off the energy supplier. She says, well, what are you ringing us up for? I said, because you've got the money. It's you who's paying them the money to give to me. She said, well, what's the problem? I said, they've stopped my direct debit and they won't pay me out now. So she said, well, it's nothing to do with us. You'll have to get in touch with them.
Well, and guess what? That's what I just said you need to do. So it seems unfortunate that I agree with the DWP. So do that, Dave, and if that doesn't produce what you need, then come back to me. All right? But don't get in a long conversation with them. Just say what we've said you're going to say. All right? I'll do Keith.
Well, Alan, just a query. Can you tell me when people first started to drink tea?
No.
You know, the beverage.
I know it's a beverage. I've no idea when people first started to drink it.
Oh, right. No, I can't understand the popularity of it, really, because I think it's terrible.
Well...
I always remember the first drink I had, and I got a tea leaf in my mouth. This was before tea bags were invented, you know. I thought I was dying.
Well, I can understand why you dislike it,
like
but
tea?
it's all right. I prefer coffee, and I drink both, but I
do,
prefer
yeah,
coffee.
I do, yeah. Oh.
But I've no idea. My money's on it being the Chinese.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because that's where tea first came from. If I remember correctly, tea was first used as a drink in China, and the Brits, I think it was, took some of the plants from China and planted them in India. I think that's the history. I've just looked it up, and would you believe that the story of tea begins in China? According to legend, it's those kind of things you can't prove, but it was in the year 2737 BC.
Right.
So that's 4,500 years ago.
Ah, that's right, yeah.
In fact, nearly 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I've always said, you know, visiting friends and all that, I could always tell whether they like me or not. If they didn't like me, they used to say, would you like a drink of tea?
Well,
and my mate turned 90 the other week, and I was wondering what to get him, and my daughter said, well, what about Yorkshire tea? Get him a big box of Yorkshire tea, you know. And I almost said to her, why? Do you want him to die?
Well, I don't think Yorkshire tea is a killer, but if you don't like it, working your way through a big box will not be much fun. Good on you, Keith. Sorry, go on.
Like you. I like coffee, you know, and doctors say too much caffeine is bad for you, but it's never done me any harm, and I'm turned 90.
Well, you don't know whether it's done you don't know whether it's done you any harm or not.
well, there's that way of looking at it.
You're ringing an idiot on the radio in the dead of night. He's done you some harm somewhere along the line. Have a good night, Keith. Ta-ra, mate. I'll do Michelle.
Hi there, Alan. I want to know why people nowadays are, well, not all people, but most people, are rude. When you say hello, they don't say anything. They just look the other way or look up at the sky or to the floor and will carry on walking. And why, when women drivers are on the road and you let them pass, they never say thank you, or they think they've got the right of way. And we were behind a car the other day and he had right of way and the woman had to let him go and she sped off in the right mood because she had to let him go.
I don't have the answer to your question. Why are people rude? Motorists, I suppose, if we're quantifying rudeness, I suppose people driving their motor cars are ruder than pedestrians, if you like. But the thought that saying good morning to people and they don't respond, I don't find that. If I say good morning to people, they usually respond in some way, with a nod or a grunt or a good morning or whatever.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a long time ago, me and my partners walked past this couple and we said good morning, and they used to always put their head down to the ground. So my partners used to say, isn't it nice when people bow to you nowadays? Yeah, because they walk past. But people don't seem to be so friendly to say, hi, hello, how are you, or anything like that. It's just, some people you say morning, I said you're lucky.
Well, you see, the thing about good morning or hello is an invitation to greet, an invitation to be pleasant, and some people see that as an imposition on them and don't want it to happen. And so they might be saying, they might ring me in a minute and say, why do these rude beggars interrupt your day by pretending they know you and saying hello?
So I'm being rude by saying good morning.
Well, that is how some people might interpret it. It's the old thing about kindness. If kindness is given in the hope of kindness back, then it's not kindness, it's investment.
Oh yeah, there is that, but it's two wrongs don't make a right. But you know, just being polite walking down the road, you just say good morning to them, just to say hi and being acknowledged and things like that. But people are not friendly no more.
But that's your friendliness. Other people behave differently. Other people don't necessarily perceive it as the highlight of their day, some stranger interrupting their thoughts by saying hello to them.
I want to stop being friendly then.
Well, that is your position. You are entitled to stop being friendly, as indeed are they to not be friendly in the way that you want them to.
Oh well. But anyway, road rage is going up a lot, isn't it, nowadays, with people bibbing their horns and finger gesturing and things like that.
Well, I don't know whether it's going up. I'm going to go on about my holiday again. I was in Vancouver recently, and I know some people who live there, and I was saying the people of Vancouver are really polite. They smile. In the morning when you pass them, it's common for people to say hello, and if you say hello and you've got a different accent to them, they try to engage you in conversation and all of that. And the person I was speaking to said, yes, they are. They're very, very polite. It's a very kind, polite place. Until they get in their cars. And Vancouver people, she said, seem to get out all their anger when driving. So, I don't know. I didn't encounter it. I didn't drive much in Vancouver. But so that was what I was assured, that they're lovely until they get in their cars. And then they're horrible.
Well, a couple of years, I'm talking a good few years back, my kid's granddad, he had him in the car and he went to get a parking spot. And because he was taking too much time, this woman driver decided, you're taking too much time, and she took his parking space. And he said a few swear words, and the kid said, Granddad.
Well, that is rude. That's against the courtesy of the car park. But, people,
there you go.
We have to accept people for what they are, not what we want them to be.
Exactly. But we all need to cheer up and smile a bit more.
Well, yeah, but you start walking down the street with a smile on your face, you look doolally.
Yeah, they think you're an idiot, don't they?
Some of them do. But good to talk to you, Michelle. How do, Hillary?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Did you know that today is National Ice Cream Day?
I did not.
No, sorry, not national, international
my
Ice Cream
word.
Day.
I didn't.
Well, what you might want to know about is a place in Cornwall near Padstow. I'm not sure whether it's a cafe or a van that goes on the beach there. And they were interviewing the person who sells the ice cream, and they said, well, don't you get a lot of young children? And she said, yes. And the person doing the interviewing said, well, isn't that rather dangerous with young children and cornets? And she said, oh yes, we recognise that. So if you have a young child, we give you a double cornet. So you just need to go and take a young child and you'll get given a double cornet.
Well, yes, but are they giving them a double ice cream, or are they just giving them a double holder for the ice cream, the cornet?
No, they're giving them double. They're giving them two cornets and double ice cream.
Yes, I know. So they're getting a double ice cream?
Yes.
How is that less dangerous?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
I didn't think it was, but that's just what the person said.
So I don't get that.
Well, no, neither did I, but anyway, I just thought that...
Well, it's Cornwall. They're all a bit funny down there. Weird. Oh, yeah, it's very dangerous. We give them 2. It's so dangerous. We give them 2. Huh?
No, it doesn't make sense, does it? Anyway, there we go.
All right, well,
I just
good
thought
on you.
to pass the information on.
Well, every day is ice cream day to me, so whether the rest of the world wants to join in, good luck to them. But every day is ice cream day to me. Have a good night, Hillary. Don't you know it's dangerous giving it to children? Yes, we give them 2. Still doesn't work. How do, Tony?
Hi, Alan, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
So we've got the new kid on the block now at tennis.
Well, we'll see.
Alcatraz.
It wasn't that new. He was the world #1 before the game started.
Yeah. But he's won the big one, hasn't he, now? Wimbledon.
Well, all of them are big. You know, when they're in London, they say, yes, Wimbledon is the best tennis tournament in the world, and when they're in New York, they say, yeah, New York's the best tournament in the world, and when they're in Australia, they say, yeah, Australia's the best tournament in the world. I don't believe that kind of pap.
But he's 20-year-old, and I can't see it. You know, I won't be alive, but he'll beat all the records, I think.
Well, they said that about Raducanu, and where's she now?
Yeah, I know that. I think she's carrying injuries.
Well, she is carrying injuries, and so may also this chap. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's a funny game, but he's certainly an excellent player. You've got to be if you want to be world #1, and he is.
Well, he's on 23 at the moment, majors. Djokovic. And he's after the record, Margaret Court, with 24. Can you see him doing it now? While this young kid's on the block might stop him doing all that.
Well, it's hard to know. I mean, it wasn't as if the kid got out there and marmalised him.
He did a good job on it. He did a good job on him.
He did a good job, but the kid, as we're calling him, only won by a whisker.
Yeah.
And, you know, if the whisker went the other way, then Djokovic would have won. So it's not cut and dried yet, the future.
Well, it's the first time he's lost, is it? 10 years at Wimbledon, Djokovic.
It may well be, yes, but that doesn't mean he'll lose next time.
He'll be another year on.
Yeah.
And he'll be carrying more, you know, that year and maybe a couple of injuries.
But you're correct in that is true, but it is equally true of the young man, as you've already said. When I mentioned Raducanu, you said, yeah, but she's injured. Well, what's to say this won't be?
Okay, the previous caller mentioned the women's tennis are the same money.
Yeah.
1977, I don't know if you remember it, all the top women went on strike.
They did.
For more money.
They did.
Virginia Wade won it.
I don't remember who it was, but it might have been Billie Jean King internationally, but certainly women tennis players refused to take part.
Yeah, that's the year Virginia Wade won it.
Right.
Do you think she'd have won if they'd have played?
How the hell do I know?
I don't think so, but anyway. Where's the mandolin come from, Alan?
I don't know, maybe it comes from mandolin.
Is it India?
Is what India?
The mandolin, the instrument, does it come from India?
I don't know.
Could you Google it? I've not got access to Google. I don't like that.
You're not going to find
out? We were talking about it today.
Right, go on.
Say what a lovely instrument it is.
Well, it depends who's playing it. I mean, it's pretty, so that doesn't matter who's playing it, but they're not always.
Well, I put it on tonight. Rod Stewart was playing it, a 12-string one. Mandolin Wind.
Right. I've had that. It bloody hurts.
Have you found out where it's from?
I've not looked.
Oh, sorry. Right. I thought you were sort of get it on Google.
No.
All right, Alan, I'll leave you to it.
All right, then. Tony wants to know where the mandolin comes from. 800 218 2255. They're very good for slicing cheese, if you like your cheese sliced evenly. As long as you don't go out and buy those ready-made cheese slices, because they're just disgusting. How do Trevor?
Hi, Alan. I'd just like to mention something I've read. It's in the Australian paper again. I read the Age sometimes. I read their comment section. And the head of the Reserve Bank in Australia has decided that inflation, and it's a regular rule with economists, there's something called the National Accelerating Inflation Rate of Unemployment, NAIRU. And there's a certain level of unemployment that's necessary to fetch down inflation. That's necessary to fetch down inflation. But there's a lot of people say that is affecting people's mental health because people are losing their jobs, they're losing their houses, particularly with this cost of living crisis. And the Australians are up in arms about it at the moment, or some of them are. It costs something like 230 lives a year through suicide because of this policy, which on average they reckon it's 5% unemployment is the acceptable level, because full employment isn't thought as necessary. It's just what do you think about something like that, Alan?
I try not to think about it because it's too confusing. I'm not qualified to come to any sort of conclusions. But full employment isn't as good as everybody thinks. You need movement. You need people to be changing jobs, and of course when people are changing jobs for a short time they're often unemployed, so full employment is a myth really, but low unemployment is a good objective.
But you're probably right. I mean, but 5% doesn't sound so bad really, but what it is we need to control inflation more than anything else. And that seems to be a priority for our governments as well. So I just wondered if there was if the correlation really stood up, because they say that unemployment affects the mental wealth of people. They call it the mental wealth instead of the mental health in this paper article, and it's people's sanity that's being tested, and particularly in the case of suicide. As I said, it costs something like 230 deaths a year, and over that, I think between 2004 and 2016, there was 230 deaths a year. So, anyway, it's just interesting. That's all I thought. I'll mention that to Alan. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I'll do Gary.
How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Are they going to be a shock in the Wimbledon this year, you winning it?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to win Wimbledon this year? It'd be a surprise for somebody else to win.
Well, I think it's unlikely that I'll win Wimbledon next year. I think one of the minimum requirements is that you play tennis, and I don't.
Don't you play table tennis?
No.
Do you want some breaking news tonight?
If it's nice, clean, tidy news and doesn't libel anybody, I'd be half interested.
Right. Don't get upset if I tell you. Michael Van Gerwen.
We don't do names. Good night. I'll do Jessica.
Hello, love. The woman who complained about people not responding to good morning. Has she considered some people are deaf?
That's a thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a thought.
And also, if you're a young woman and a young fella says good night to you something, you don't respond because you don't know what's coming next.
That's true.
It says, come on.
Yeah.
And after all, if you've got the choice to say good morning to somebody or not, shouldn't that person have the same choice whether or not to respond?
Exactly.
Yes. It's rather like those people who complain about shop assistants and that, saying, Have a nice day. Well, I'd rather be told to have a nice day by somebody who doesn't mean it than told to be sod off by somebody who does. Okay.
Well, I feel sure, Jessica, you've experienced both plenty of times.
That's where my slip fork comes in handy.
Have a good night, Jessica. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. I'll do George.
Hello, Alan. What I'd like to speak about, Alan, I don't know. I've seen it in the paper and I couldn't make it out. Do you reckon that there's a black, like a large, it looks like a leopard? Is that true? It's been roaming around England somewhere. I say I'm partly sighted and I can't see the paper very good. And I just want to know if you know anything about it. It's been getting sheep and everything.
Every so often in the newspapers, on what they call a slow news day, there's often a story about a wild cat attacking sheep or other sort of farm life, as it were. It's not yet been proven to exist. Often it turns out to be a tabby cat with a bad temper. It's just one of those stories that flies about from time to time. Whether there is a wild animal out there, I don't know. I kind of hope there is. There is. I would like the idea.
Yeah, I don't fancy walking in the country anymore.
Well, you know, most of the time they're not looking for you to eat.
I'm a bit too big for that, Alan.
Well, there you are, and they know that. You see, we all get frightened of wild animals, but wild animals aren't going round looking for a fight. The only poisonous snake in the country, the adder, if you approach it, it buggers off because it can't eat you. They're not interested in things that they can't eat, and wild animals don't often attack humans.
I see. I've got one more little thing to talk about, Alan. You're not the only one who eats ice cream. I have 3 ice creams a day, and I really enjoy them. Like I always look forward to my ice cream. I'm not keen on food stuff now because I'm getting too bloody old for that. I just like eating bloody sweet stuff, ice cream and stuff like that.
Right. And you have 3 ice creams a day?
I've had 3 today, yeah. I just had one now, Alan.
Excellent.
I've had ice cream with jelly.
Oh.
I really enjoy it.
Oh, dear God. Ice cream is the food of the gods. It shouldn't be mixed with crap like jelly.
Well, it was jelly with oranges inside.
Oh, dear God. It's beginning to sound like a trifle invented by the devil.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing the devil ever did. Invent trifle. Have a good night, George. 0800 218 2255. Trifle. It's like cold sick that's been layered. I'll do Liz.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Just thinking about cold sick. How lovely.
How lovely indeed.
Last night we were talking about Boris Johnson not being able to get into his phone.
Indeed.
And you mentioned a number. Was it 3425?
Hang on. 3.
And you said
425.
Try that in your phone. I'm not with you. Am I missing something here?
Well, I don't know. But when
what do you recommend?
On a phone, you have numbers, but each of those numbers has letters allocated to it also.
Right.
So if you get the 3, what was it I said?
3425.
3425. Yes. If you write down 3425.
Right.
And then get your phone and look at the variety of letters available for the letter 3. That's be 3 of them. And then a similar exercise with the letter 4 and the number 2 and the number 5. You will then have some letters. And out out of those series of 3 letters, you can form a word. And it admirably describes our former Prime Minister. Just some.
Oh, I see. Oh, thank you very much.
All right, let me know if you've gotten on.
I've not got a pencil handy at the moment, but I'm.
All right, well, you do. All right, have a good night. 0800 228. Oh dear, I'll start again. 0800 218 2255. Too busy laughing at my own joke. That is correct. 0800 218 2255. It works. How do John?
How are you doing? Right, this is not what I phoned you for, but I'll tell you briefly. Wild cats out in the countryside. You look up on iPlayer, Claire Boulding's Ramblings. They found... Okay.
Yeah. They found what?
Wild cats in the country. Leopards. That sort of stuff.
Well, go on.
Yeah, they found them. I've just looked it up now. It's iPlayer, Claire Boulding's Ramblings. It's called. She goes out in the countryside.
I know, I've heard many of them.
Yeah, because we've had one round here. Anyway, that's not what I phoned you for. The chap who was blind and I was having trouble with his meter.
Well, with his electric board, but yes.
Yeah. I recommend that anybody who's got those sort of problems should apply to the company in writing. Now, he's obviously got problems with writing letters, but people, Age UK and the RVS provide advocacy services that will be able to help. But if you write to these companies, you get a better response.
I do agree. I didn't suggest writing because he told me that he was virtually blind and he couldn't get anybody to read his meter.
Well, if he gets
so that would negate his opportunity to write a letter also, which is why I didn't go that way.
Well, because you've got Age UK, you've got social services who will put you on to people, even if he's not got a social worker himself. He will. They will be able to refer him on to people who can be an advocate for him, and he can dictate a letter to them or can tell them what he wants to say, and they can. Because we're not all erudite, are we?
Indeed not.
So, there are people out there who have help, and quite a lot of people as well. But I recently did it. I recently had a ding-dong, and I did it in writing, and I did it by recorded delivery, and I got an excellent response.
Indeed, the written complaint is always treated, always is a long time, is frequently treated with more regard, should we say, than the telephone call.
You don't have to be silly, you have to be straightforward, and you have to be sensible, but this was Octopus Energy, and they were more than helpful.
Excellent.
I have to say, and now I've got rid of them because I've just had solar panels go online this weekend.
Excellent. Well, that's it. You should never pay an electric bill again. Have a good night, John. Okay, 0800 218 2255. How do Mike?
How do Alan? We often think of you when we are in the happy position of eating ice cream, which is fairly regularly. One of the reasons why is because there's a very friendly ice cream man who comes here, and he always very kindly gives Margaret and I a large cone of ice cream each.
Right.
And he always lets us know how much he enjoys seeing us, so we always feel absolutely delighted when we hear the merry chimes of an ice cream man. Other than that, there are two. Before I talk to you about one other rather serious matter, there are two sporting points from last night's programme that are probably worth mentioning. Do you remember you were saying that you were talking about Billie Jean Moffat?
No.
I'm a bit disappointed. Anyway, before she was Billie Jean
Oh, sure. So, my apologies, Alan. She was Billie Jean King that you were talking about, weren't you?
Yeah.
That's right. Well, before she was Mrs. King, she was Billie Jean Moffat. Now, I think you made a statement where you said that Marketa van Troos, who won the championship, the women's championship yesterday, was the first person to have won it without being seeded. Well, from my memory, Billie Jean Moffat, as she was then, won it unseeded in. She took part in it in 1962, and she apparently. Well, I've been rather confused, Alan, because commentators said that she was unseeded in 1963. To my knowledge, that was the second year when she took part in the championship. Don't know whether that probably doesn't mean very much to you.
Well, none of it does, but let the record show that any search engine you use, we are told, one presumes by people who understand tennis, that the first unseeded woman player to win Wimbledon was Marketa Vondrousova, and that was her yesterday.
That's correct.
It might be, because one of the things they added to the phrase every so often was in the modern era, but I think Billie Jean King, or whatever her other name was, Billie Jean King would count as being in the new era.
Yep.
So,
when they all became professionals.
I've no idea what the new era is. I've no idea. But Billie Jean, whatever her name was, as far as I understand it, was a professional anyway. So it can't be.
They seem to have said slightly conflicting things. I thought it was just worth mentioning.
Well, just about everybody who's interested in tennis and who comments on tennis and who plays tennis professionally seems to agree that Vondrousova was the first unseeded woman player to win Wimbledon.
Yeah, well, they've rode back on that one, but my memory of it was that the first term we ever heard of Billie Jean, either Moffat nay King or King nay, was in 1962. I remember talking to somebody about her on the second Wednesday of Wimbledon. The other thing I did want to mention that came up last night, your oft-caller Gary, who questions you in a rather...
well, let's not use an adjective. Who questions me covers it.
He wanted to know why the field umpire in Test match cricket no longer indicates no ball, as he used to. And it was thought that the job of the umpire was becoming too arduous to watch the bowler's foot where his feet were landing, and secondly, to watch exactly what happened to the delivery. So in matches where there is a third and fourth umpire, they decided that the fourth umpire would be the one who looks for foot faults and calls no ball. The only problem being that the call is very belated these days.
Okay.
And I do agree with you in many respects, the comment you made. Why can't we rely on umpires we did in the past? And the reason why, certainly why cricket resorted to technology was because it was felt that many of the decisions impinged upon the careers of many players if they should be dealt unfortunate decision or wrongful decision to buy umpires. That's why they changed.
Well, I mean, yes, they make wrong decisions. Of course they do, and inevitably they will. But with the only thing it removes by getting it done by electronics somewhere else is it gets rid of the error full stop, but it also prevents umpires who are biased, and I don't think they are generally. So the umpire may make an error, but he or she will make the error whoever's playing. So what you lose on the swings, you'll gain on the roundabouts, one presumes.
What does happen, of course, they complain that they're not bowling the prescribed numbers of overs that should be bowled in a day, and consequently these are lost to the public, to the people who've come to watch the match, and they're often and it's things like these the upstairs umpires, off-field umpires, the delay caused by them, the numerous times in a day when it happens. You may lose, 20 minutes for these calls? Don't know whether you've ever attended to the whole of a day in a test match since that's come
I've attended the whole of a test match, but I may have fallen asleep a bit.
Good.
Well, it's neither good nor bad. It's just that's happened.
Well, no, I'm delighted to think that you have. The other thing I did want to talk to you about, Alan, and I do forgive if necessary, I did miss the beginning of I don't like missing bits of your programme, but I was on the phone at the time. The gentleman who rung up a blind chap about his electric meter, if I may have got the wrong end of the stick, but he might be interested to hear that if he's able to organise himself a smart meter, he would be able
that's where the problem began. So he's had 3 of them apparently.
Oh, well, what I did want to tell him, and indeed tell you, and anybody else who's interested, is that he can get an audio meter which will give him chapter and verse on exactly what he is using. I was successful in getting one a few weeks ago, and I think it's extremely good. I can tell you a marginally interesting story about it. I hope it'll amuse you. On the evening before this event took place, I happened to unplug the meter in order to charge a small braille computer, and when the charge ended, I dashed off to bed, unplugged the thing, seized hold of it, dashed it up the stairs, and having replugged in the audio meter reader, without actually turning it off. And when I woke up in the morning, I became very suspicious. I could hear a gruff voice from downstairs, and I wondered whether somebody had entered the house, and I thought, oh no. So I went to the top of the stairs, and I heard him say, 2 kilowatts. Please press to continue. So in other words, I'd been fooled by my own meter.
Indeed. Right, well, thank you for that. I'll do William.
Good evening, Mr. Beswick.
Good evening.
I'd like to talk about Putin's statement with regards to the Ukraine, which began nearly 2 years ago, when he called people neo-Nazis. And he stated that he wishes one day for the Russian Federation to return to its former countries it had under its empowerment.
Well, that would be the Soviet Union rather than Russia, but yeah.
Yeah. And he stated that, NATO and what have you, part of this neo-Nazi group or something.
Okay.
So, with that in regard to NATO, most of the countries which are in NATO now have been involved in numerous amounts of wars throughout the years since 1945. I believe that was when NATO was formed, wasn't it?
I think it was, yes, but it's certainly around that time.
So, when Russia lost so many of its borders after the Second World War, it's now caused a major conflict throughout Europe and spread throughout the Middle East and into Africa.
Okay.
When you take like France, they were involved in the Vietnam War in 1945, which they couldn't solve, so the Americans gave them loads of money to come in and back the French colonists, where they spent billions of pounds.
Okay, well, you said you wanted to talk about what Putin has said. And you
what I'm saying is
what are you working towards?
Well, perhaps his statement is right that the formation of NATO has got ill-conceived ideas towards Russia and the Russian people.
Okay. You say ill-conceived ideas. Which idea is ill-conceived? Are you suggesting that Russia was in some way entitled to cross the border with weapons, invade by some people's definition,
I'm not,
into Ukraine?
No, I'm not saying it was, because this goes back to like 1987 when the Chernobyl incident occurred and what have you. But it's just that tomorrow is the last day of the grain deal, which ends in Odessa. And we've got thousands of millions of people fleeing so many conflicts in Africa, the former Ethiopia, Sudan and what have you, it's going to create more mayhem to millions of people throughout the world. And perhaps this is the reason why Russia doesn't want to relinquish control of the Ukraine, because of the amount of grain it produces per annum.
Okay, well, I mean, it's probably just the word you chose, but Russia doesn't have control of Ukraine to relinquish. Ukraine is an independent country these days. Whether it should be is another story, but it is currently, and Russia invaded it.
Yeah, I understand that, but there's so many of these NATO countries now who, shall we say, failing to back Mr. Zelensky to the hilt,
Well, they're under no obligation to back him. He's not a member. His country is not a member of NATO.
But they won't allow him to be a member of NATO either, will they?
Whether they will or won't is irrelevant as to the question, is he? And his country is not. And the Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Therefore, the NATO obligations to Ukraine are zero. Now, some of the member countries, not all by any means, but some of the member countries, America, ourselves, are very much involved in supplying him with weapons, not with actual fighting, because that would cause a complication, because they're members of NATO, and if Russia retaliated against them, then NATO would have to become involved. So, but Ukraine is not a member of NATO, so NATO of itself has no collective say in that dispute.
I thought they had an agreement from 1991 where NATO would come into Ukraine's defence due to the state, and it wouldn't use nuclear weapons.
Well, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, and in order for NATO to become involved in the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, there would have to be a unanimous decision on the part of every member of NATO, and that is not going to be got.
Well, there just seems a lot of people who are involved with like NATO and former prime ministers of various countries, ours included, you know, have one got a Middle East peace envoy job, didn't he, when he finished in Parliament in 2008? Much like Mr. Kissinger did in Vietnam.
Well, countries are members of NATO, not individuals, so what jobs they go to do after they've finished their representation job at NATO is neither in nor there. It's the countries that matter, not the individuals who's, if you like, sent there to represent their country.
Right. Have you ever seen the programme made by Lynn Kovic and Ken Burns about the Vietnam War? It's about 10 parts.
I've not seen the 10 parts, no. I've seen lots and lots of programmes about that conflict, some of them entertainment, some of them documentary, and read quite a few books, because that war was going on to some extent during my time in the forces.
1945.
Well, not the first one. Well, the French conflict began that early, yes. I was talking about when the Americans decided they could sort it out and were made to look quite silly in the process.
Well, it was the French who called on the Americans to go into the conflict.
Indeed it was.
You know, so like, they're all NATO members, that's what I'm saying. Like, they've been involved in a lot of conflicts.
Yes, they have.
One being Libya, you know, where Mr. Gaddafi got killed, you know, inadvertently, after two former UK Prime Ministers had sanctioned the UN Arab uprising in 2010 onwards.
But to come back to NATO, individual NATO countries are at liberty to do whatever they choose to do, but they can't do it on behalf of NATO. So when America bombed Libya using, some people say, the United Kingdom as basically as a landing place, so they were a bit nearer when they left, a bit like an aircraft carrier, that was nothing to do with NATO. That was America doing something, Britain doing something. But they're not doing it as NATO.
Right, just a quick second one, if possible. You know, in Ireland at the moment, we've got this new Windsor Agreement coming about over Brexit. And I noticed on Sky News tonight, a former Labour Prime Minister has been pontificating about rejoining the EU. You know, and it seems as though, like, Mr. What's his name? Our present Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, he'd like to go back into the EU as well, and so would Mr. Starmer. So it looks like all those people who voted for Brexit are going to be scuppered by the latest puppets in government.
Well, when you say the latest puppets, I'm always intrigued. Who's pulling the strings of the government? The puppet here?
All the elites in society.
Oh, right.
Big businesses.
Well, you're one of those clowns, are you? Oh, well, never mind. You're entitled to be daft. Good night. How do Paul?
Evening, Allan.
Evening.
I think Putin's going to be the one to start the Third World War, but
okay.
That's another subject. That's not why I rang up, but I do think he's very dangerous, very powerful. But I want to talk about. Have you heard in the news over the last month or so about aspartame?
Aspartame, yes.
Which is the artificial sweetener.
It is.
Yeah, and they're saying that it's like something like 1,000 times sweeter than sugar.
Okay.
That's got to be a chemical, hasn't it?
Well, everything's a chemical. You're a collection of chemicals. I am. So what do you mean it's got to be a chemical?
Yeah, it's got to be an artificial chemical.
Well, it's not an artificial chemical. It's a real chemical. It's known as an artificial sweetener.
Yeah. It's not. It's poison, really.
Eggs are poisonous. Everything you consume is poisonous. And aspartame has been shown by research, I think in the United States, to be carcinogenic. But you would have to, I forget the figure, but you would have to drink something like 50 cans of soft drink a day for it to have any effect on you at all.
No, I find that hard to believe. Like 50 cans of pop a day. Why would they put it in a product if it's not to addict you? If it's not to make you drink more?
Well, they put most of the things in the drinks you buy. Most of it is water. So why do they put things in it to add flavour? They're not allowed.
Well,
if they put sugar in it, they have to pay a tax because there's a sugar tax. And some people are convinced that sugar's bad for them, so the industries have had to find replacements for sugar, something sweet. And one of the ones they've come up with...
Sugar isn't as sweet as aspartame. You don't need... What?
Indeed so. That is correct. Sugar isn't as sugar isn't as sweet as aspartame.
Yeah, so why would you have to put aspartame in it? See, there's not one soft drink on the market today that's safe for you, that's healthy.
Well, it depends when you say. I mean, first of all, water's a soft drink. That's quite healthy. There are various fruit juices which have their own sugar content, so they have, if you like, the possibility of rotting your teeth if you have too much. Most things that you consume, if you consume too much of them, they will harm you.
Yeah, but we need a soft drink that's completely chemical free.
You've got one. It's called water.
Well, even bottled water is supposed to be bad for you, isn't it?
I don't think bottled water itself is bad for you. It's bad for the planet because we have all those plastic bottles lying about. But the water itself is all right.
Yeah. Well,
humankind has been drinking water ever since we've had humankind, really.
I trust water that comes out your tap more than I do bottled water.
Well, the bottled water doesn't, for example, have aluminium in it.
Well, it's a lot less. The bottled water in this industry is a lot less regulated than natural water.
What do you mean, natural water?
You know, it's water we get out the tap that falls from the sky.
Water you get out the tap. All the water in the bottles comes from the sky. They don't get it from somewhere else. All the water that comes through your tap is not your definition of natural. It's all been treated. It's filtered. They take the turds out of it most of the time. They put things in it to make it sparkle. Would you believe it's got aluminium in it?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
And yet you were saying earlier it didn't. Never mind. Paul, it's been fascinating. Go and have a drink, but don't have a drink with any water in it, because that is very, very dangerous. You find a drink without water, I wish you luck. You'll be dead by the morning. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. And as you well know, you mustn't drink water. We've just learnt from Paul it's not pure. You mustn't drink water. It's very, 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 very dangerous. But bottled water's better. Cobblers. 0800 218 2255. And yes, aspartame was shown to be carcinogenic, but the amount there is in products generally, products on the market, you would have to drink gallons and gallons and gallons of it for it to do you any harm. So providing you don't drink gallons and gallons and gallons of those fizzy, god-awful crap sweet drinks that you get, then you should be all right. How do Jessica?
WC feels fishes fornicating water. The little boys do even worse things in it. That's why I put bourbon in it.
Absolutely so. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. We're here till 1. It's just after 11:15, and you can talk about absolutely anything. And I still haven't found out whether anybody, any woman, was the Wimbledon champion before this one that won it is today. Still haven't found out. I've had a look, but I've got nowhere. But they did say in the modern era, but we don't know when the modern era started. It's probably back in the days when they did it in long skirts and their rackets were made of wood and catgut. Who knows? Here's Diana Ross, I think, just been, whatever that thing is when they say, here it is. It's called Oppenheimer, and it's all about the man who led the project in the United States to build the nuclear bomb that led to the 2 nuclear bombs being dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And Oppenheimer didn't do it alone. They never do. It's always a sort of group of people working. And I made a programme for Radio 4 a long, long time ago about 2 men who were physicists at Birmingham University. And it was during the war, and they were Austrian Jews. They'd escaped from Austria and came over to the UK. And then when the war began, or not long after it, it was decided that Jewish people, Austrian people, not Jewish people, sorry, Austrian people and other aliens would have to go into camps, get them out of the way. And their boss of these 2 men, one called Fish and one called Piles, their boss argued that they were too valuable and there was no way they were, agents. They'd escaped from it. They would have been murdered if they'd have stayed in Austria. So they escaped from it. So he didn't want them to be sent to one of these camps, and eventually the Ministry of War agreed. But they couldn't work on radar. Birmingham University was part of the team developing radar at the time, and that was a top secret thing. So they said, not having our secrets. So they were put in a room on their own. I've been in that room. It's the point of the programme. And in that room, they started thinking about nuclear and nuclear fusion and nuclear fission and all the rest of it, and the chain reaction of nuclear. And they were, in essence, at the start of the nuclear bomb, and they were eventually whisked away to work on the Manhattan Project with Oppenheimer. So there you have it. I don't suppose they'll get a mention in the film. The Yanks will just say it was all the Yanks, because that's what the Yanks do. When they're making films anyway. 0800 218 2255, as we both know. That little titchy fella that does his own stunts won all the air battles of the Second World War. So he was clever. How do Trevor?
He was very clever. You kind of answered the question I was about to ask. Do you think they will appear in the upcoming film? And I think you're right, though. If they do, it'll be in a very marginal way, I suspect. I'm still trying to work out 3425.
Oh, well, there you go. It's not my fault, you keep doing it to me. Keep doing it to me, so you can have it bloody done to you. Sod off, I'm not helping you.
Thank you.
It's okay. I like to be useful when I can.
And furthermore, I'm a big fan of Trifle. The sloshier, the better.
Oh, dear God. It doesn't surprise me.
Well, right, it's my turn. Cryptic crossword clues.
Go on then.
Organise a venue for marksmen by the sound of it. 7 letters.
Organise an event for marksmen.
A venue for marksmen by the sound of it.
I don't know.
Arrange.
Oh, dear God. Right, yeah.
and one roll that's isolated, 5 letters, and that's roll, R-O-L-E. One roll that's isolated, 5 letters.
Don't know, go on. Bread roll?
Apart.
Apart roll?
Apart. So it's a roll, and it's isolated in that it's apart, if you see what I mean.
Oh, I see, yeah. All right. Yeah. Right, go on then.
Thank you for the appreciation.
Yeah. That one was tripe, but you like tripe, so that's okay. Oh, no, it's trifle you like.
Yeah.
They're in the same zone for me.
Right. I like listening to Broadcasting House on Radio 4. And today, Paddy came up with 2 jokes which he credited to Barry Cryer, although I think both of these have been around for a very long time. But anyway, I
so
thought
Barry Cryer. I mean, he's dead now, but he'd been around for 100 years. But go on, they were both very funny.
So I will tell them badly. Picasso was burgled and drew a picture of the robbers for the authorities, and the police arrested a horse and 2 sardines. And secondly, man driving down country lane runs over cockerel, knocks on the nearby farmhouse door and tells the farmer's wife, "I'm terribly sorry I've killed your cockerel. I'd like to replace him." "Please yourself," says the farmer's wife, then around the back.
Both of them were brilliant. Typical joke.
They were good, weren't they? And then there's the big literary news of the week, Alan, that Nadine Dorris, the acclaimed author, has written a book called The Plot, The Political Assassination of Boris Johnson. And I came up with a little alternative title of my own that I suspect you won't use. But how about The Martyrdom of St. Boris, I thought. But
the Martyrdom of St. Boris. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know.
I can't see it selling, but never mind.
Well, I can't see. Anyway, yes, right. My wildlife story of the week. Surfboards stolen by otter.
Sea otter, yeah.
Which I suspect you've seen. California, what the version I read described as a menacing mammal, nothing like a bit of alliteration, has been accosting surfers and seizing their surfboards. And the otter is known to the authorities as 841. quite how they come up with a specific number for a particular otter, I don't know, but known as 841. And the American Fish and Wildlife Service has put up posters warning aggressive sea otter in the area. And it just made me smile.
Yeah, it was a cracking story. It could be worse, 841, it could be 3425.
It could.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And the final thing I was going to touch on was the CPTPP. Do you know what that stands for?
No.
Well, I looked it up and I thought I'd share it with you. Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Oh, so that thing. Oh.
Yes.
Right.
Now, I don't know whether you normally look at the papers, so you may well have seen an interesting headline in the Sunday Express. It said, £12 billion Brexit trade boost.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, good God, that's an awful lot of trade. It turns out that the £12 trillion referred to is the gross domestic product of all the countries, including us, when we formally join next year. And the government's own figures suggest that the boost this agreement will give to our GDP will be 0.08%, or 1.8 billion over 10 years. Yeah. Which, as somebody pointed out, is the same cost as that tunnel they're going to build at Stonehenge. So you need to take story. Well, I think people probably know this, but you need to take stories and headlines in all the papers. I would say, particularly in 2 or 3 of them, but you need to take them with a big pinch of salt, Alan. I would.
Quite so. Yeah, I mean, the papers were rounding it up to make it sound exciting and say, it'll increase the GDP by 0.1%.
I know.
What?
Yes, yeah.
Crazy.
And just one final thing I've remembered. I like the way people have taken to ringing you up and either expecting you to Google things for them, which fair enough, I mean, you've got nothing else to do, have you?
This is true.
And also seem astonished when you say you don't know, as though you're the kind of font of all wisdom. But I thought I would offer the origin of mandolin as the musical instrument, and I turned to my Oxford paperback encyclopedia. You can tell I'm old school, and apparently it's Italian. So there you are. Thanks, Alan.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. I'll do Jacqueline.
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Electricity. The other day, I received... My electricity company don't give you a monthly thing about the charges and whatever. Okay. And I got 6 months of it the other day. And I thought, there's something wrong here. When I looked at the last page, my credit was a lot less than the first page. And what they've been doing is, because mine is a direct debit, and not 1 month has exceeded my direct debit. So what is left there goes into credit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it isn't. Just supposing that 1 month I was £10 in credit, they didn't add that onto my credit thing. They took it off. So
that's weird.
They're being very naughty. I worked it out today. I had all the sheets out that they sent me for this year, and they owe me £80 in credit on top of the credit that I already had. Can I mention the
no,
the company?
No.
Oh, because I know somebody has complained that they actually got sent a bill for £120,000.
Yeah, well, might have used 120 grand state of electricity these days. Who knows?
No, but they're being very naughty. So I suggest that people check their bills for the credit and how much they paid, because I've never ever had my direct debit has never been less than what I've used. So every month I'm in credit. But they've been taking off the credit. They've been taking the amount off the credit thing instead of adding it on. Isn't that weird?
That's weird, and also somewhat naughty if it's done on purpose. Yes. But it's almost certainly a computer glitch.
But I didn't realise.
Have you spoken to them?
No, not yet. I only discovered it, but they only do Monday to Friday, about 9 till 6 or something. But they're going to get them down the banks tomorrow. It's going to take me an hour to get through to them. But I think that people should check their bills and check their credit thing. Okay, it's only about £80, but £80
not only
is
£80, it's £80, isn't it? Too bloody right.
Yeah, that's right. It's my money.
Absolutely.
It's my £80, not theirs.
Exactly.
Naughty. So I'd just like to warn people to check their credit score. I mean, it's weird that they sent me 6 months of monthly bills, but they don't send it monthly.
I'm confused. You say they send you 6 months of bills.
The bill every month.
So you say they send you a bill every 6 months? Right. Well, that's fine.
They said
are you registered with them on the internet?
No. Don't do any of that. No mobile phone, no internet, nothing.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine, but you can keep abreast of it.
I just thought people should be checking their credit and, debit and what have you, because that's very naughty, isn't it?
Well, you should check it anyway, not necessarily for naughtiness, but because mistakes happen.
Yeah, but you can't check it if they only give you in every 6 months.
Well, you can check it in 6 months' time. When you get it in 6 months,
yeah.
you check it then.
Well, that's what I did today. Had all these things laid out on the bed, and sort of putting them in date order, and then with my fingers and toes and the calculator and the pen and pencil, and I thought, you cheeky little rotters. And then they said that they're going to reduce my direct debit by £6. I thought, reduce it? They shouldn't be taking anything for a couple of months. So it's just to let people know to check their credit and debit and make sure that not being ripped off. Or somebody is...
Well, that's good advice. I mean, one should check all bills. There's no point in relying on the person that sends you the bill, because without any malice at all, they can make an error and they won't spot it unless you tell them.
Well, that's right, but I thought, hang on, why is my credit less than it was 6 months ago? It just didn't make sense. And that's when I decided to open all these things and spread them out, because, bills are just a pain in the bum, aren't they? And then you go on direct debit, you think, that's all straightforward, but it isn't. It isn't, because it's the person who's claiming your money is being naughty.
Well,
okie, that's all I wanted to tell you.
They may well have just made a mistake. It does happen. I mean, none of us, not even electricity boards, are infallible. But anyway, as long as you get onto them and tell them they're wrong and they agree they're wrong, they'll correct it.
My credit has been taken off.
Yes, you said. And as I said, if you tell them they're wrong and they agree they're wrong, they'll correct it. Have a good night. I'll do James.
Two things. The first, that question about the unseeded player at Wimbledon winning. Marketa Vondrousova is actually the first unseeded person ever to win the Wimbledon women's singles. Mike was talking a bit earlier about Billie Jean King.
She won the doubles, didn't she?
She did, but she in 1963 she reached the final when she was unseeded, and that was the last time that an unseeded person reached the final, but she didn't actually win it. And Margaret Smith, in fact, won that, who's now Margaret Court, and at that time Billie Jean King was Billie Jean Moffat, and she was 19. She's now 79, and she was actually in the crowd to see Marketa Vondrousova break that record, in fact, just a few days ago. Also, I think it's today, a British winner of the boys singles, and that's the first time a British person has won it since 1962, and that winner, if you remember him, was Stanley Matthews, who was Stanley Matthews, the footballer's son. He had quite a talented a tennis player son called Stanley Matthews as well, and it's taken all that long for a boy to a British boy to win the Wimbledon boys singles.
Just shows how crap we really are at tennis, doesn't it, really?
It does, yeah. But also, I wanted to say something about Jane Birkin, who's just died, and there are certain misconceptions about her. In fact, it's easy to make a mistake. And in fact, you were talking about Googling earlier. Sometimes you can Google something and you find that the message from the Google is actually a mistake itself. It's always quite funny when I notice that somebody's Googled something and the machine that they've Googled it to has made a mistake in the first place. It's not sort of like you get the voice of God when you ask.
Indeed, Google is not the oracle.
No. But Jane Birkin, she was actually the daughter of Judy Campbell, who was a very popular singer and actress in the 1930s. As a singer, she was the person who popularised A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. And also in 1942, when she became a close friend of Noel Coward, she starred in a touring version of Blithe Spirit, which had just been made into a very successful and very good film, with Kay Hammond playing the part of Elvira, the ghost, and Rex Harrison as the person she's kind of haunting. But in the touring version, Noel Coward himself played the main parts there, and it is a very significant play of his. It's got some humour in it, but Coward himself said that Margaret Rutherford was too funny, because she plays a medium in the film, and she plays it sort of as if she's sort of daft and sort of overacting a bit. But in the touring version, as I said, Judy Campbell did the tour, and that started off at Blackpool in the winter of 1942, and apparently when she was on stage with Noel Coward, you could hear her teeth chattering because she was so cold, because the theatre was cold, with it being winter and also wartime. The trains were cold, and virtually everything was cold at that time. But anyway, Jane Birkin was her daughter, and Judy Campbell, incidentally, lived well into her 90s and only died a few years ago herself. But Jane Birkin, of course, you know her most famous song, Je t'aime non plus, with Serge Gainsbourg, which actually went to number one in 1969, either despite or possibly partly because it was controversial and had some sort of in fact, I think it had a radio ban at the time. It went to number one anyway, and but although she's famous for that, she became a very talented actress herself, and she was in she was in two Agatha Christie films, Death on the Nile and Evil Under the Sun, and much later than that she was in two very significant films, one of Dirk Bogarde's last films called These Foolish Things, and also before that she played the author Catherine Mansfield in Leave All Fair, and Sir John Gielgud was the main male actor in that one, and so she's been a very interesting character. Some people think that she was actually French, but she was actually English, and as I said,
well, she was both, wasn't she? She was French-English.
Well, she was born in England and went to France. In fact, she starred in small parts in films even before 1969, and when she hooked up with Serge Gainsbourg, she starred in the film Blow Up. Do you remember that one from 1966? That was quite a significant film of the 60s, with Vanessa Redgrave and David Hemmings playing a character sort of partly based on the famous photographer who's still around, David Bailey, and he's now in his 80s now. But of course, in the mid 60s, he was quite a part of the swinging 60s scene, and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all that. But Jane Birkin,
and also a camera advert where the line was, "David Bailey, who's he?"
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we've come a long way from the starting point, but let's listen to the tune. Thank you, James. So there you are. You see, a lot of people won't even remember it. It was supposed to be dead sexy. I know. No, not kind of dead sexy. It was supposed to be romantic, passionate, and basically all the television and radio and everyone else producers decided it was just two people who were at it. Yeah, I know, but it's just the dirty mind of television companies. I'm sure it was not meant to be saucy at all. Right, well, enough of that. It did get to number one, but I don't think I've ever said this in my life before, but I'd rather... Very strange performer, but a very successful one, so we can't grumble. Shufty at the morning's newspapers. Farewell to star Jane. Right Royal Racket. The royal children at the tennis today were getting very involved in the game, which is fair enough. I think the little girl, is it Charlotte? I think she had a bit of a crush on the Spanish lad who won. She would look at him, seemed to be looking at him with interesting eyes. I mean, it's only a little girl's crush. It's certainly, I think I spotted one. But the main story on the front of the Mirror, new drug beating Alzheimer's. Drug trial results will be revealed today. By that they mean Monday, because it's not quite Monday yet. So that would be interesting. Scientists reveal trial results after claims the treatment slows the disease. How do they know? I mean, if it stops it, then you know. But how do you know if it just slows it? Because you don't know. It's not like a car. You know the car's slowing down when you put the brakes on, because you know what speed it's doing. But how do they know that it slowed it down? Because they don't know what speed, because it doesn't work at the same speed for everybody, does it? Very strange. Anyway, there we are. There's Charlotte again on the front of the Daily Telegraph. Wimbledon hails the new king of tennis. Students are being ripped off, the Prime Minister warns. Young people being sold a false dream. He's wanting to get rid of the bad degrees. Now, do you remember years ago there was a load of discussion because a lad did a degree on managing a golf club, and people said, what in the name of God? And perhaps rightly so, but that was in the days when people got their degrees free of charge. Now, of course, they have to pay a considerable amount of money. They're still subsidised, but they have to pay a considerable amount of money, so maybe they should be able to pick and choose. And how many how many golf course managers do we need anyway? But there we are. We're getting back to the days when the only degrees they'll have will be degrees that in the end will get you a job. And then you look at all those politicians, all 650 of them, how many of them did a politics degree? Lots of them will have done English and journalism and gubbins, all sorts of stuff. But how many of them did a politics degree? So if they said, I want to do politics, they'd have said, all right, but you've got to be able to get a job in politics. I want to do, mathematics. All right, you can do mathematics, but then you're not allowed a job in politics. The whole thing's cobblers. I mean, if people want to do degrees, let them do them, for God's sake. We need an intelligent workforce, don't we? Exactly. Anyway, there you are. Students are being ripped off. Labour's net zero plan needs 3,000 turbines. It's the Daily Telegraph hinting at NIMBYism on the turbine front. Severe heat storm expected to break records across Europe. I know. It is a bit worrying, but equally, it's all right when the weather's nice. At the Times, Jane Birkin gets a mention, Met pays out $2 million over a corrupt murder investigation. They really are rubbish, aren't they? Metropolitan Police Force is rubbish. Rising rates push more households into the red. And Alcaraz, who I keep wanting to call Alcatraz, which would be a bit offensive, takes Djokovic's Wimbledon crown. Well, it wasn't his, he didn't win it. Daily Express, sex predators stalking Britain's police stations. Sex predators allegedly assaulted more than 170 people on police premises, but very few were charged, quite possibly because they were police officers. It does happen, as we well know. Daily Mail, Prime Minister vows to curb rip-off degrees, and who knows, he may have exactly the same success he's had at stopping the boats. And we won't notice if he has. The Guardian, alarm as a new heat storm threatens to engulf Europe. Starmer will keep 2-child benefit cap. And children waiting years for ADHD assessment, which, if nothing else, will make them cross and agitated. And the newspaper, Conservative Starmer faces backlash over refusal to scrap the child benefits cap, which we've just heard about. The PM needs a miracle to avoid a triple by-election wipeout later this week. That's on Thursday. And the FT call for European funding increase to compete with the US on green incentives. And UBS hands EY one of finance's richest audit deals after Credit Suisse takes over. Hands up if you understood that. Me neither. 0800 218 2255. God, I wish I was lucky. Shit. I know. Wet, wet, wet. And wishing I was lucky. There was another one called, not by them, called I Should Be So Lucky. Yes. You're going to tell me who by, aren't you? Yeah, I think it was that Australian woman. Yeah. I remember she was doing Manchester Arena. I called it Manchester Arena because I don't know what name it had at the time, because it's changed its name so many damn times you can't keep up with it. She was doing the arena, and I don't know how, but I was told what her sort of anonymous name is. You know, like Mabel Ecklethwaite. I don't think it's that. So if you rang her hotel and said, could I speak to Kylie Minogue, they'd say no. But if you rang and said, excuse me, could you put me through to Mabel Ecklethwaite, you'd get through to her. They all do that. They have a secret name. And somebody told me hers. And I thought, is it real? And then I checked with somebody else, and yeah, it was real. I never rang it. I don't want to talk to an Aussie. I've got standards. I'll do Sam.
Hi, Alan. Do you think, certain countries, they explore space, like they go on the moon, they send rockets to the moon. So basically, they spend billions of dollars on space research or the space in general. And some of them countries, if I'm not mistaken, they get foreign aid and they have extreme poverty. Do you think is it weird to say? Is it wrong to say, to criticize them for that? Do you think
you could do what?
Is it wrong to criticise them when
it's never wrong to criticise. One is entitled to criticise. One's entitled to a point of view.
Yeah, so certain countries, they have extreme poverty. They have water problem. They have electricity problem. They have all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
And they explore and they spend billions on space exploration. And there's nothing new. Like they're sending a rocket to the moon, like south of the moon or east of the moon, and it's not going to achieve anything significant. And I think it's just waste of. I don't know if them individuals. I don't know how they get the money. If it's a government-funded scheme, it's actually shameful.
Well, I suppose it depends on which country you're referring to. My guess is you're referring to the recent launch in India.
Yeah, trying to be, yeah. Like, well, I think China. I don't think. Well, let's not talk about China. India. So yeah, that's the most recent one. And I think if it's government funded, then I think it's ridiculous. It's hilarious because I personally think that money could be spent better elsewhere. Because I don't think it's going to add anything to the bigger picture. If you go into the south of the moon, like what's that going to achieve?
Well, we don't know till we get there.
Is it wrong to criticise? No, you said it's not wrong to criticise.
No, it's not wrong to criticise. One is entitled to criticise. I'm not that involved. It's not my money as far as I can tell.
Well, morally speaking, speaking out of any personal interest or any sort of grudges or anything, just from what I said, just for the sake of a conversation, what do you think?
I don't have a view. I think countries are free entities and entitled to do as they please. If you're concerned that that country, and I don't know whether it does or not, if you're concerned about that country getting aid from another country, then the issue that needs discussing is within the country that's giving the aid to see whether they think their aid is being properly spent. So it's up to the country, India in this case, it's up to them to decide what they're going to do. It's then up to any country giving that India aid to say, well, if you're doing that, you're wasting money on that, we're not going to feed your people. So it's up to them. But you're entitled to criticise who the hell you want.
Yeah, I just want to know. I just don't want to be come across some sort of inhuman person. Which what I'm saying is very human, because I think they should spend money. But I don't know. I just don't know what to think. I just think, like, if they look for life and they have this super tech, they have this new idea, super technology that they might find life, then it's worth it. But then if you go into south of the moon, they're not really achieving anything. I mean, the moon is always I just think it's just waste of money because you need to improve people's lives first to a certain degree, then explore, and then stop foreign aid. I'm pretty sure they get foreign aid. I'm not sure. If they're not recent years, they've got foreign aid at some point.
Well, the trouble is, if you're the donor country, let us say that Britain, I've no idea, and I'm not suggesting this is the truth, but let us say that Britain gives India £1 billion in foreign aid every year. Let us say that. If Britain now says, well, we're not giving you that foreign aid because you're sending a rocket to the moon and that's costing you an awful lot of money, then the people that will be being punished by the cancellation of the aid are the poor people.
Yeah, and I mean, either way, the poor people, I mean, Britain is not saying, let's say Britain, okay, so like, if they say that, the poor people will understand that, well, where their point of view, where they're coming from, basically, because, I mean, either way, it's all about their suffering, isn't it? So, well, it's all about suffering.
They may well understand, but the question is whether they'll get fed.
Yeah, exactly. The question is whether they get... I mean, you know, foreign aid, in a lot of cases, by the time the money goes to the poor people, it sort of evaporates into all sorts of different places. Where was I going with that? So, I mean, poor people suffer anyway, but obviously I'm not going to get your view, so you just don't have a view on that view.
Well, it's not a case of not getting my view. You've got the best view I've got, and that is, it depends on where you're looking from. If the aid-giving country says, well, you, Mr. Government Minister, are wasting money on space travel, therefore we're not giving you money so that you can feed your poor people, the poor people will die.
Yeah, I totally got that.
So what do we do? Is it immoral to say you're not having the aid because the country wastes it and have people die?
Yeah, exactly. But it's just I just don't know what to say now, because I mean, my point here is like that money could be spent better elsewhere.
Well, it could be, but of course the country is a free country and is entitled to make its own decision. You are correct in your view that the money is being wasted, but how do you change it? They are entitled to do that with their money. I mean, there are poor people in this country, people who haven't got two halfpennies to rub together in this country, and we've got a programme of space travel, and we waste money by some people's measure on all sorts of things. Indeed, we're giving money away to India, who clearly don't need it.
Yeah. So if we forget the foreign aid for a second, I think they should, if it's government funded, I think it's ridiculous. They should first concentrate. They have diseases that exist in certain places. They should concentrate on medication, concentrate on into like just helping the poor first, concentrating in the economy first. Then think about social.
India is not the starving country that once it was. It used to have extreme poverty. The extreme poverty in India, the rates of it are diminishing fairly quickly, and the economy is expanding. It isn't yet perfect, but then neither is the UK or even the United States.
Well, there's no way. I mean, the train the transport is nowhere near the standards of the UK. I mean, like you have people on top of trains, so with that money they could build a new.
Listen, in this country, people would be glad to be on the top of the bloody train if only one would go.
Yeah. So my point, on a serious note, like on a very serious note, so a couple of billion, that's a few train tracks. That's a few train tracks. That's few schools, few hospitals. Like you just name it, I could just name you so many different services.
You're just repeating your point. In your view, the Indian government, in your view, should not be spending money on space travel. That's it.
Exploration, not travel.
Well, how are they exploring it? Are they just standing there and looking, or are they sending something up there?
I will guarantee you they're not going to find anything significant.
Well, that's fine. I don't know why you didn't ring them and tell them. If you ring them now and say, look, you're not going to find anything, they'll come back.
Okay, so my next point, I was going to, I don't want to come across like I hate to think I'm being arrogant or I don't understand.
No, it's all right. You're not coming across as arrogant or anything. You're coming across as a bit of a knob, but that's an entirely different matter.
Yeah.
But, anything else?
Yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, it's like, it's just one of them things, isn't it? But the foreign aid thing is just something I said. I don't really emphasize on that too much. But then the train thing, it really is. It's a safety issue, isn't it? They could add a few train lines, then that would just improve. But then obviously you don't have a view, so I'm not going to get your view from that. I did get your view. So yeah. So what do you think of them whales? They were whales.
I live in Wales. I think it's nice.
No, the animal. There were some whales.
I think whales are nice.
Yeah. They were trapped in Scotland. There was like 50 of them trapped.
Well, it's you don't want to be trapped in Scotland, dear God, no.
Yeah, no, in Ireland, in Scotland, because them whales numbers. Honestly, it's very. Their numbers could drop dramatically, and then when their numbers drop, there's nothing we can do. Like if there's just animals in general, like they go extinct. Like the tigers in India, their numbers are very low. The white rhino, I think there's only one left. I think recently he gave birth to another animal, to another white rhino. So these whales, I mean, I think there's a million. There's different type of whales, and there's one millions of them. So 50 when they die in their hundreds or hundreds of thousands.
I mean, a million. How many whales do we need? A million? That's plenty of whales.
No, but the sea is a big place. It's bigger than land. So
well, I know, but they still manage to meet each other.
Yeah, but they can't go extinct. Any animal can go extinct.
Well, they can do, yes. Animals go extinct every year, and we find new ones every year. I think more go extinct than arrive. But chucking themselves on the beach isn't the biggest problem that whales face. The biggest problem that whales face is from Japan and Norway and all them people who like to kill them.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I mean, it's getting better. It's getting better than fish. I don't think, in general speaking, whale hunting is like really improved. There's not. Yeah, I think it's a small number, I guess. It's not a small number actually, because Iceland.
But you can't have it both ways. You can't say it's a small number. It's not a small number.
It's improved. Like, I mean, a lot of countries are not hunting them anymore. But
correct.
Yeah. So 200,000 is quite a big number. I think Iceland was. I think they in past 20 years or so they've killed about 20,000. Something like that, which is, if you look, 20,000 is it's a big number.
Well, it depends.
I mean, in certain parts of the world, a lot of animals have gone extinct because of humans. Basically, they've killed loads of animals.
Yes.
Yeah. So
what are you suggesting? That we kill a few humans and see if we can't balance it up?
No, I mean I think the whales are protected for now anyway. For the near future, they are protected. I don't think they're going to end up like pandas. Pandas on the edge, like they're on the edge. like their numbers.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, like, yeah. So that gentleman was talking about being able to fish in the UK sea, and then he was giving the numbers. So why can they not? Why would they not allow to fish more in their own seas?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with fish is, if you're a fisherman, you have to go where the fish go.
No, but apparently Europe can come to Britain and fish loads, and Britain can only... I mean, the numbers he was given was ridiculous. Like really small numbers that they could fish. And then I don't know if it was one particular country or because there's loads of countries in Europe. I haven't got a clue, but the numbers didn't...
Should we just rest our laurels on your admission that you haven't got a clue? How do Audrey?
Oh, hi, Alan. Hi.
Hiya.
I just don't understand. I know everybody's gripe at the moment is the increase in food prices. Inflation is 8.7%, they say, and I know we've got energy costs, the war in Ukraine, labour costs, Brexit, but 8.7%, as most people will tell you, food prices in the supermarkets, some have gone over 100%.
Yeah.
And I just wonder whether not the supermarkets, but maybe the producers are taking advantage of this and we're being ripped off.
Well, it's good to wonder. Usually if we're ripped off over food prices, it's not the producer that's getting ripped off, it's almost always the supermarket.
The retailers, do you think so? Yeah.
Well, they get these... farmers lose money on milk. How can that be?
They do.
And so they're not losing money on milk because the farmers aren't very good at doing it. They're losing money on milk because the crooks that run the supermarkets don't pay them what it costs to do it.
Right.
And it's like that with a lot of products. And so if and I don't know whether we are or not, but if we're being ripped off on food prices, it's not by the farmers, it's by the shysters that run the supermarkets.
Right, okay, I was thinking it was the producers.
No, the farmers get stuffed every way they turn.
True. But I mean, for instance, there's certain crisps, in the ones that I'm sure you know, the ones in a tube that used to be £1.09. They are now £2.25. That is more than 100%.
Well, stop buying them. That's the best way to change prices. Good on you. And if anybody follows suit, I promise you, they'll come down in price or they'll stop making them.
Possibly, yes. Yeah, I must admit, that's true. And again, there's such a big thing about obesity. Well, people are going to be buying the less expensive things and eating more chips and things. And obesity is going to go higher, isn't it?
It may well do, although if it goes any higher, we'll all be dead. I don't know how much worse it can get. We're already living, far too many of us are living on food that isn't really produced the best way. And the problem with that is that the processed foods are cheap to make, really.
True.
And so they've taken us all towards cheap to make food, and the costs of energy have got people saying, well, if you can go into a burger bar and get a meal that fills you for £3, why are you going to buy fresh vegetables and all of that and spend all that energy making the meal when
and using
you get your belly full somewhere else? Exactly, the energy.
By using your electricity.
It's a vicious circle.
It is. Is there a certain body that checks on these prices that supermarkets are charging?
Well, there isn't a body that checks on them because they're a private business. They're entitled to charge what they want.
Really?
There's all sorts of different bodies that get involved. I mean, the government doesn't, as far as I'm aware, have the power to say to the Allan Beswick supermarket, you're charging too much for your tube of crap crisps. But they can. I mean, if you look at a supermarket, they make billions. But when you start looking at their profit margin, it's about 2%. 2%.
Okay.
But 2% of £1 billion is a lot of money.
Of course it is. Yeah, of
but
course,
you imagine if they change their prices by 1%, they'd half their profit.
Right, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, of course it is. They're a business. I say this always. The only thing a business is interested in, any business, there's no exceptions to this, the only thing a business is interested in is getting your money off you. That's it.
See.
And the less they have to give you for it, the better.
Of course, yes. Not only increase in price, I'm sure other people will agree that things have shrunk. Your Mars bars. Oh, sorry, mention the name. But
too late now.
And packets of crisps. You open a packet of crisps, and there's nothing in there.
My dad used to say, do you know what the most expensive potato in the world is? And you start thinking King Edward's or Jersey Royals. No, Dad, I don't know. He said a packet of crisps.
Oh, definitely.
One potato, if you're lucky, in a packet of crisps.
Yes, yeah. What's your favourite food?
My favourite food is ice cream.
Oh, is it really? Right.
I thought you were hardly the best recommendation for a healthy diet, is it?
No. But what about your sweets and chocolates? Are you?
I'm not big on that. I mean, most of my sugar income comes from ice cream. My favourite proper food, if you like, I do like a sandwich. I'm quite big on sandwiches, and I like a lettuce sandwich with too much butter.
Just lettuce?
Yeah, a lettuce sandwich.
Oh, crumbs. This doesn't sound very appetising.
Well, I've got nothing to say to that. But I have before now gone into the garden, plucked a lettuce, cut the root off, run it under the tap for a few seconds, cut it in half, and put a slice of bread on each side of it, and ate the half.
Oh, no. Prawn mayonnaise for me. Definitely. Prawns, lovely.
No, I don't eat prawns. They live on they live on fish poo.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I know, but
you might as well have dung beetle and chips.
Oh God, no, dear me. Right. That's another one.
They're just underwater dung beetles. That's all they are. Prawns.
I mean, yeah. I'd say the same with fish and chips, but I mean everybody loves fish and chips, but they've soared as well, haven't they? But I imagine that's the price of the fish.
It's both, but you're not right about everybody likes fish and chips. I don't like chips.
Oh, all right.
Not from the chippy. I don't like chippy chips.
Oh,
I don't like restaurant chips.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever rocks your boat. Okay, Alan. Thanks.
Good on you, Audrey. Have a good night, love. So there you are. I'm now the lunatic on the wireless because I like a lettuce sandwich. What? Just lettuce? Best reaction all night. Yes, just lettuce. You can't beat a lettuce sandwich. An iceberg lettuce is good. A little gem. Oh, now that's a good lettuce. I like that little gem. Yeah, them bags of lettuce you get, I'm not so keen on that. When you read it, when you read some of them bags, I mean, check, because it won't be them all, but some of them, you're eating bleach. Honestly, they've been washed in chemicals so that they don't go, well, presume to get rid of the slugs and bugs and the dirt. No, thank you. No, thank you. How do Arthur?
Hello, evening, Alan. Sir.
Good evening.
It's Arthur Johnson.
Hello, Arthur.
Even though our governments are supposed to be totally against people smoking tobacco. Teenagers are allowed to buy short-term vapes. You know what I mean? Vapes. Short-term vapes.
Well, I think you mean disposable vents are what the conversation's about these days, yeah.
Yeah. Because apparently they are supposed to be being used as substitutes for tobacco, which is good. And apparently 1.3 million of them are thrown away, not scattered around each year.
Yeah.
Which isn't very good.
No.
But the government wants those many vapes all to be banned by 2024.
Well, it wants
so what else can the youngsters do to ease themselves?
Well, the youngsters will have to make their own mind on that. They're not wanting to... They're not... The plan isn't to stop people vaping. It's to stop people disposing of vapes irresponsibly, the disposable ones. In other words, to get people to recycle them, because not only do they have plastics in them, but apparently they have some quite serious chemicals in them as well.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed on the text on the TV, it says single-use varieties have surged in popularity, bound to, of course, driven by different brands. And the UK Vaping Industry Association then says they help smokers quit and can be recycled.
Mm-hmm.
So the children are stuck into different things. There's nothing else for them to do to cheer themselves up, isn't it?
Well, again, the vaping is said, and not just by the industry, by the way, but vaping is said to be one way that smokers can quit. Or it helps smokers to quit because they get something to do with their hands, and they get to suck poison into their lungs, which is what they really want. And so it's useful in that sense.
I'm thinking more teenagers. There's not much to do.
Yeah, the problem is that teenagers are vaping, and we don't yet know whether that will be leading on to cigarettes later.
Of course.
And we don't know the long-term consequencing of vaping anyway.
Well, I'll leave that with you, and maybe some of the listeners can come up with some other ideas.
Okay, good on your offer, thank you. 0800 218 2255 to join us. It's just after 25 past midnight, and we're here till 1, so there's a bit of time. How do, Jacqueline?
Alan, I'm just listening to you saying about your lettuce sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they said a long time ago, I read this, it had a soporific value. It helps you to sleep.
What is?
A lettuce sandwich.
Does it?
Yep, it's supposed to. Okay, maybe you're different, but it's...
I don't know. Maybe that's the reason I can fall asleep anywhere, any time.
On a washing line?
Yeah, I could, yeah. I'm almost certain I could sleep standing up like an horse. I mean, I hear stories of people who can't get to sleep, and if I want to go to sleep, I shut my eyes and I'm asleep.
But apparently a lettuce sandwich is good for that. Right.
Well, yeah. Oh, thank you. There'll be people rushing out immediately to get a lettuce, and because they can't get to sleep. I'm going to eat a lettuce sandwich, and I want to listen to that bloody Beswick on the radio. I understand that fully. 0800 218 2255. A 3,000-year-old gold torque has been found in a field in Essex. Are you wondering? Don't worry, I did. I looked it up. If you're wondering, a torque is a bit of twisted bar, like a barley sugar, but in this case made out of gold. And it's used as a kind of necklace. Now, this 3,000-year-old gold torque has been declared treasure trove, so somebody person who owns the land, possibly the metal detector waller who found it, somebody's going to make an awful lot of money. So that's contrary to the old adage that talk is cheap. Aye, thank you. Here all week. Actually, no, I'm here till 1. 0800 218. Talk is cheap. Come on, that was brilliant. Or its Welsh name. I don't know it. I went up Snowdon on Wednesday. It was all right. Some people were staying with us, and before they came to stay with us, they bought tickets for the 4 of us to go on the train to the top of Snowdon, and we did. And it was good. It was good. Yeah. It's quicker than walking. A lot quicker than walking. And we went to the top of Snowdon, and we rummaged about, and then there's the bit at the peak, you can walk up, and there wasn't a queue. There's often a queue, but it was piddling down with rain, so there wasn't a queue to get to the very, very peak. And so we did that. But before we went up, we went in a cafe, and you know, you do that, don't you? You got a bit of time to kill. We got there. We went on the other train as well. We went round the lake. There's a lake. I never knew that existed. I've never seen it before. And we went on this Lakeland train, which is like a toy train, bigger than a you know, kiddies train, but a small one. And you go out and they say it's an hour and a half. And bloody hell, that's a long time. It's not a big lake. And we went, and it kept stopping. It'd been gone about 3 minutes. It stopped at the Slate Museum. Oh, that's nice. And then it went again, and then it stopped at a picnic site. It was piddling down. and then it stopped, and he said, right, this is where we stop, and there's a nice view. So we all got off and had a look at the view of the lake. It was water. And no, it was. And then we got back on, and they took us back. And then we went up Snowdon, which was nice, in the rain. And I've never been up since they built the cafe, the posh one. It was very good. And we went in that. But anyway, we went in a cafe. And there were 2 tables left, and one had 2 chairs on it, and one had 3 chairs on it. They were next to each other, and the person that was with us said, "Can we put these 2 tables together?" And the woman said, "No, not. I'd prefer you didn't, or if you do, you'll have to put it, but no." So. Fine, well, we'll sit at separate tables then and just speak a little bit louder. They weren't that far apart. Speak a little bit louder than was previously planned. So that's what we did, and that was fine. And then she came to take the order, and the 2 people, 2 chaps who are not small, the big fellas, I don't mean fat, I mean big, they're about 6'2", the pair of them, and they'd moved the table, their table, away from the wall by about an inch. And the woman came over to take our money and to sell us her food and said, "Put that table back." They'd only moved it an inch. "Put that table back." And it was right against it. And I thought, dear God, I'm glad this is not my trip. I'd just sling me hook. Anyway, she took the order, and you won't care, I ordered Welsh rarebit. Well, I'm in Wales, so I ordered Welsh rarebit, which is where I come from. It's cheese on toast, but this was a kind of cheesy slop. I'm sure there's a better name for it than that, but the rare bit, as it were, the rare bit, never mind. The rare bit was a sort of slop on the bread that had been grilled. And it came, and I was expecting what the Americans call grilled cheese. And she brought it over. I went, oh my God, that looks a bit iffy. And they were. I mean, it was, you know, the dark bits from the grilling, but there were little brown patches, and I thought, hello. Anyway, I thought I better give it a go, because you can't just say I'm not eating that. You've got to have a go. I ate it. It was the best cheese on toast I've ever had in my life. It was absolutely delicious. I know. And there was a little bit of lettuce with it, which helped a lot. It was delicious. I don't know what was in it, but it was delicious. And if you care, I'll be surprised. How do, Paul?
How do, Alan? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awfully well, thank you.
Good. You know, it's about economics. I'm the single-handed economist, one-handed economist You know what I mean? Anyway, this guy earlier, he said, why do you need unemployment? Why is the government saying they've got to be unemployed and people have to suffer? That's what I think he said. He mentioned something called NERU. I've never heard that before, but I could go into it in more depth. If you go back to, say, Thatcherism, people thought Thatcher was a bad person because she caused a lot of misery. But there's like some method in the madness here, because the theory around then was that if you're tough, you're called the Iron Lady. If you be tough, and you don't need to go through like an intervening period of unemployment, you can get the inflation down without having to cause the unemployment because basically the government has to reduce the money supply. Money causes inflation, but if you reduce the money supply, that's what causes reduced demand, reduced more unemployment. Her idea was, if you be tough, you don't need to go through this unemployment. But unfortunately, that's not enough. People have to see the unemployment. They don't believe the government is going to reduce demand, the money supply, because you know what governments are like. It's like a cookie jar. In government, you've got to spend. But people don't believe the government is going to reduce the money supply. So they only believe it when they see the unemployment going, like, if unemployment went to 10%, that's the definition of a depression. If it's over 10%, you like a Great Depression was over 10%. So we're nowhere near a depression, but it might have to go as high as it has to go before people realise that the government is being serious. You know what I mean? You've got to talk tough. They're not nasty. That's a theory anyway. I'm not saying it's the old. I'm not saying I've got the answer, because the different theories, aren't they?
People use this term all the time, and well, not ordinary people, but economists and all that lot. When you say the money supply, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it means the amount of money that people have in the pocket that they can actually spend and buy goods with, whatever it is. It's like checking.
Well, when they say the money supply, now I'm only using English words here. I understand the word money. I understand the word supply. But if someone said to me, I'm the pie supply person, I would expect him to give out pies. So when you say the money supply, I mean, the person who supplies my money is the BBC. So what is the money supply?
It's the amount of money, checking accounts, the definition of like in the 70s or 80s that you've got M3.
Well, only now, I don't want to know what it was in the 70s and 80s. I just want to know what the term money supply means. These economists bandy it about. Well, I know it might well change. It might well change, but what is it now? I'm asking the question now. So, at the end of all the changes that it's undergone, you just referred to the money supply, and I thought there's a term I'd like explained. You were using it like an idiot. It seems I assumed you knew what that meant, and I thought you'd share that with me. So, what is the money supply?
I'll take it on board.
No, I don't want you to take it on board. I want to know what it is.
For your benefit. For your benefit. For your benefit.
Well, keep saying that, and then tell me what the money supply is.
Right, the way the Bank of England does it, I'll give you a definition, but the way the Bank of England did it, or does it, is it works on the demand side for money.
And what does that mean? What does that mean?
Interest rates, interest rates. It changes the interest rate. Let me
ask you this. Let me ask you this, because you're making no progress in your explanation with me. But that's probably because I'm thick. But when you refer to the money supply, does that mean? I don't need your compliments. I need your explanation. When you refer to the money supply, and anyone else refers to the term the money supply, do they mean the amount of money that is in the country at any given moment?
No, it's the amount of money that people can buy goods with. But you can actually, as a definition, you can quantify the money supply as the amount of foreign exchange holdings and the amount of domestic credit. So there's different ways of looking at it. But the money supply.
But Paul, my problem here is if there are different ways of looking at what the money supply is, then it's pointless using the expression, because without quantifying or explaining in what way you are using it, it means nothing.
You know what? It's my I'm old-fashioned, because I believe you might be right. They abandoned the idea of the money supply in the 80s. It didn't work. I think you might be right. It's a waste of time.
So when the economic journalists in the newspapers and the television and radio programmes use it now, they're idiots. Because we've abandoned it and they're still using it.
Well, it got the name with Thatcher, monetarism. You know what I mean? They coined the term monetarism. And that was the philosophy of Milton Friedman, economist.
If I ask you to tell me what the money supply means, and you then tell me what another word means, I've not made any progress.
Well, the money supply doesn't include, or it never used to include.
What is it?
Building society.
Listen, the money supply probably doesn't include. The money supply probably doesn't include how many shoes there are. It includes money. So what? Don't rule out all the things it doesn't mean, because we'll be here to a week of Tuesday.
Right. Okay.
So what does it include? What is the money supply?
It's in bank accounts that you can get your money on straight away. And they've got like checking accounts, they're called clearing bank accounts. So you can sign a check on it. So that money in the bank is money, as we define as economists.
So if somebody has £10 million in a bank account, but on deposit on a long-term investment in the bank, that's not part of the money supply.
Exactly, no, because you can't get hold of it straight away, can you?
Right. So the money supply is effectively cash.
Yes, that was what it was, but it was very variable and very difficult to measure. Different types of measurements of it, like you got M3, M2, M1, different ways of measuring it.
Well, they all sound like roads to me.
Yeah. And I had a joke when I was coming on. That was about the one-handed economist, because President Kennedy said, "Can someone get me a one-handed economist?" So they kept coming to him and saying, "On one hand this, on the other hand that." You know?
Right.
That's the joke. Oh dear.
Yeah, it's probably a joke amongst economists.
But
probably doesn't mean anything to us humans.
No, have you had enough education now? Or do you want to talk about the tennis?
I mean, the level of education, the level of education, to answer your question, that I've had in the past few moments has been zero. But I'm happy to hear what you've got to say about the tennis.
Oh, it was fantastic, wasn't it? And then, you know what I like about it also is that Tracy Austin is that American who presents the programme. And I remember her, because in the 70s I used to play tennis. I loved her, Tracy Austin. She was about 14 years old, but I think I was about 13. She was about a year older than me, so I think that's how loud it is for me to fall in love with her.
She ended up getting married, and she's had a couple of marriages, and I think at the moment she's not married any longer. So there's still a chance for you. Get your name down.
You're joking? She's not married? Oh my God, didn't know that. And yeah, it was a very good match. And I think one game lasted. I think it lasted about 25 minutes or 20 minutes. One game.
Did you
watch it?
It was rather crazy. I watched most of
crazy.
it. Yeah.
That was crazy. Yeah, well, I'm the same. I'm like in and out watching it, and like, yeah. What else have I been doing? So it's a bit. I'm a bit nerdy because like I've been like my macroeconomics textbook that I read at university, at Polytechnic, it was like 1982, and they make a lot of money from textbooks. Like they bring a new one out every 3 or 4 years. But I mean, these days, I read the edition later, second edition. So the third edition wasn't online, but the fourth edition I started reading. The fourth edition was about 1995. So I started reading that. Makes me a real nerd, doesn't it, Alan? Reading these textbooks.
No, I read textbooks, just not ones about money.
Yeah, but it was like the first edition is the one I had at Polytechnic. Now I just read the fourth edition, and it took by the fourth edition they decided, we've got to completely rehash this book. We've got to change, everything about it. That's what they did. But they're like the second and third are basically the same as the first. You know what I mean? I could recognise it. So they must have thought after 10 years of this textbook, we're gonna have to redo it all. And they probably didn't even mention money supply in that fourth one. But
right.
in the first and second and third, they probably mentioned the money supply, but the way the actual Bank of England controlled the money was on the demand side of money. They didn't actually try. In theory, they could try to control the money supply, but they didn't actually do that because the connection is too variable, if you know what I mean. Although they could have done it in principle. So what they do, they work on the demand side for money, which is the interest rate. So that's I
thought demanding money was a crime. Tracy Austin, by the way, I've misled you. She's married to a bloke called Scott Holt and has been married since 1993 and has 3 sons called Sean, Brandon and Dylan. And it was the other one, Chrissy Everett, who's just got separated.
Yeah, I saw Chrissy Everett. You know who she was sat next to? She was sat next to the Queen Princess of Wales, I think. Did you see it?
She was sat behind her.
Behind it, yeah. I recognised she had. I don't know who she was next to, but she was very close. Yeah, that behind her thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think she was very nice. I remember her.
They were probably sitting there looking at each other and thinking, I wonder if the other one knows what the money supply is. Have a good night, Paul. And to Arnold. Hello, Arnold. Oh, well. We have no Arnold. Still, come to no Arnold. Or should we play Van Morrison? Arnold.
Me?
Are you Arnold?
Yes. Sing, Alan.
You, yeah.
Hey, new song on. It's only one Arnold, what charity? Got money after you. What charity do you think? Would you support charity? Charity. Anyway, you know what? In the IC, a lot of charities up, a lot of opticians. Yeah, charity. What do you think about that Stalin? He's got him a 10-year plans, isn't there? Stalin document, the program. I wouldn't like any harm done to where's the government going on with the policy?
Arnold, have you got your phone on speaker?
Is that better?
It is, yes. We can hear you now.
Yeah. Where do you think the government's going on, Alan, with its policies? What immigration, Home Office? Do you think the right MPs are in, or who do you think will win Love Island, Alan? You know that? Who do you think will win Love Island?
Love Island?
On telly.
I've never watched it, I don't know.
How many basics? How many family members are in the basics? There's a lot of. I can't tell, he must have had some domestic. I'm not saying.
I mean, I don't know how many... Beswick.
What's the actual... what does it mean, the name Beswick? You sound like Keswick, doesn't it? Keswick.
It does sound like Keswick, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you remember that film, Pete Postlethwaite, Death of the Clown, Alan? Oh,
no.
So sorry about seeing Turner. What do you remember best about all your life? Have you always been a radio presenter, Alan? You not had any others? Oh, you said yeah. So how long, you got a set date for the last show, Alan? The last set date?
No.
But the end is nice,
Apparently so, yes. It will end. The programme will end sometime this year, that's for certain.
Yeah. Will we be spending more time in France then, or what were you?
I'll be spending more time in Wales.
Yeah, well, I've been down in the valley. I was talking to a nice young girl called Holly Williams. I had one in every town. Anyway, my daughter was going. I'm just saying, thanks for that signed autograph I got of you about 4 years ago. I treasured it.
Right, okay. Well, I'm glad you treasured it, Arnold. We can't carry on talking because your line is awful. How do Steve?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Steve.
Hiya.
You need to turn your radio off or whatever it is.
I haven't got it. I've got my telly off in here. Hang on.
Whatever it is, it needs to go off.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Is that right?
It does appear so, yeah.
Oh, God. No, what I'm going to talk to you about, really, where everybody these days, politician ever, says, got to go to university. I don't think you have. If you're a vocational trainer, if you're good with your hands, not everybody's good with sorting things out in their head, but they can do it with their hands.
Yeah.
Plumbers, joiners, motor mechanics, anybody. But the thing now is, they seem to say, go to uni.
Well, I
don't have to go to uni.
No, you don't have to. I would recommend to any youngster that has the opportunity to go to university to go. Not because they'll get a better job or out like that, but because they'll meet people from all walks of life that they may not, without university, ever meet again. So that's the thing that's good about it. It's 3 years learning ways of being a grown-up, and that's very good. But that doesn't mean that apprenticeships and learning on the job and all of that, vocational training, is very good as well.
Yeah, but what I mean is, people who work with their hands and everything else, they get sort of dumbed down. Because they're not sort of classed as professionals, put it that way. Teachers.
Well, they're not professionals. Teachers are professionals. It's a profession. The others, it's a skilled trade.
What? Right. What is classed as a profession?
I suppose the best way of dividing it is the way it was sorted out many, many decades ago, more than a century ago, and that is professionals. If you describe people as blue-collar workers and white-collar workers, it's a very, very old-fashioned definition. That's a way of getting round it. It's not perfect, but it's a way of understanding the two. But there's no wrong. There's no wrong with being an electrician or a plumber or a bus driver or whatever. I mean, they're honourable jobs.
But you're not. If you're a teacher or something, you're classed as a professional and treated in every other way as a professional. Well, if you're a motor mechanic or a joiner or a plumber, you're doing the profession. You're as clever as anyone else.
Well,
and you're not treated as being
depends on
clever.
your definition. It depends on your definition of clever. You are skilled and you are knowledgeable about your trade, and that's surely enough. And I'm with you.
Right.
I don't,
So what's the difference? A teacher or someone else is a professional trade. You're a professional trade. What's the difference? Of the class you classed at?
I don't know is the answer. I don't think there is a difference, but I think society's gone to the trouble to treat people who don't get their hands dirty better than those that do. How do Detty?
Well, exactly, that's what I'm...
Hello.
Hello, Detty. You'll have to be quick.
Hi, yeah, okay. I taught teacher education at university, and half of them were vocational and half of them were academic. The academics...
I'm sorry, I would love to hear more about it, because it may help Steve and it would help me, but we've got to end the programme. Detty, thank you very much for trying at least. See you next Saturday at 10. Till then, have a cracker. Ta-ra.
The BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Jason Kay. Carlos Alcaraz, the 20